Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so we pay homage to the Blessed One, Supremely Enlightened Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We pay homage to our teacher Lokuswami Nahanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So today we are going to learn a part of the sutta, at least. This is from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 56, Upāli Sutta. Okay, so just a brief introduction about the Dhamma here that we are about to learn. So Buddha realized, the Enlightened One realized, all the actions in our life done by an individual can be categorized to just three sections, three categories. All the actions. Actions means things we do with the body, things we say with our words, and the things we think with our thoughts. So all the actions can be categorized into three: bodily actions, verbal actions, and mental actions. For example, during meditation, what is the action? Bodily, verbal, or mental? Mental. When we do some chanting, what is the major action there? Verbal, right? So like that. Which one is the most powerful one? Bodily, verbal, or mental? Yeah, so this sutta, this discussion between the Buddha and disciple of Jain ascetic, Nigantanatha Putta, is about that, about these three types of actions.
So I've heard one time the Buddha was staying near Nalanda in Pavarika's mango grove. At the time, the Jain ascetic of the Natika clan was residing at Nalanda together with a large assembly of Jain ascetics. Then the Jain ascetic Digha Tapasi wandered for alms in Nalanda. After the meal, on his return from alms round, he went to Pavarika's mango grove. There he approached the Buddha and exchanged greetings with him. When the greetings and polite conversation were over, he stood at one side. The Buddha said to him, "There are seats, Tapasi. Please sit if you wish." When he said this, Dikha Tapasi took a low seat and sat to one side. The Buddha said to him, "Tapasi, how many kinds of deed does the Jain ascetic of the Natika clan describe for performing bad deeds?" Reverend Gautama, the Jain Natika doesn't usually speak in terms of deeds. He usually speaks in terms of rods. Then, how many kinds of rod does the Jain Natika describe for performing bad deeds? The Jain Natika describes three kinds of rod for performing bad deeds: the physical rod, the verbal rod, and the mental rod. But are these kinds of rod all distinct from each other? Yes, each is quite distinct. Of the three rods thus analyzed and differentiated, which rod does the Jain Natika describe as being the most blameworthy for performing bad deeds? The physical rod, the verbal rod, or the mental rod? The Jain Natika describes the physical rod as being the most blameworthy for performing bad deeds, not so much the verbal rod or the mental rod. Do you say the physical rod, Tapasi? I say the physical rod, Reverend Gautama. Do you say the physical rod, Tapasi? I say the physical rod, Reverend Gautama. Do you say the physical rod, Tapasi? I say the physical rod, Reverend Gautama. Thus the Buddha made Dikatapasi stand by this point up to the third time.
Okay. Sadhu, sadhu. We rejoice in you. Okay, so if we summarize what we learned here from the discussion between Blessed One and the Digatapassi. So Buddha asked about the deeds, right? Kamma. The Pali word is kamma. How many types of kamma does the Nigantanada Buddha teach for his disciples? The kamma that leads to the accumulation of karma, the actions that leads to the accumulation of karma. And he said there are 3 types, right? So 3 types of deeds. Huh?
What the deed?
Yeah, but the deeds means, this is the question Buddha asked, karma. But Digatapassi said, Nigantanada Buddha doesn't like to use the word karma. He likes to use the word rod, means danda. Danda. Pali word is danda. So 3 types of rod, right? What is the first one?
Physical.
Physical. That means bodily. Let's say body. Bodily rod. Second one, verbal rod. Third one, mental rod. So whose teaching is this? Jain's teaching, Nigantanada, right? Teaching. And then Buddha asked, what is the most powerful one? Eh? Most powerful one? He teaches, the Nigantanada Buddha teaches the most
physical.
powerful one is physical, the bodily rod. He teaches like this. Some people say Niganta's teaching and the Buddha's teachings are same. I have heard some people saying like that. Is it same or completely opposite? Completely opposite. He taught the bodily karma, bodily rod is the most blameworthy one, most powerful one. Buddha asked for 3 times and he said the same thing. And then Digatapassi, the disciple of Nigantanada Buddha, asks the Buddha the same question.
But Reverend, how many kinds of rod do you describe? Tapassi, the legalized one, doesn't usually speak in terms of rod. Usually speaks in terms of deed. Then how many kinds of deeds do you describe for performing bad deeds? I describe 3 kinds of deeds for performing bad deeds: physical deeds, verbal deeds, and mental deeds. But are these kinds of deeds all distinct from each other? Yes, each is quite distinct. Of the 3 deeds, thus analyze and differentiate them. Which deed do you describe as being the most blameworthy for performing bad deeds? Physical deeds, verbal deeds, or mental deeds? I describe mental deeds as being the most blameworthy for performing bad deeds, not so much physical deeds or verbal deeds. Do you say mental deeds, Reverend Gautama? I say mental deeds, Reverend. Do you say mental deeds, Reverend Gautama? I say mental deeds, Tapas. Do you say mental deeds, Reverend Gautama? I say mental deeds.
Okay. Yeah. Thus the Jain ascetic Digatapassi made the Buddha stand by this point up to the third time, after which he got up from his seat and went to see the Jain Nathika, means Nigantanatha Buddha, his master. So the Pali word for this is Danda. And now, when questioned, Buddha answered, there are three types of actions, deeds or actions. And the Pali word Buddha uses karma or karma, right? Okay. So what are the three types of karma? Bodily actions, verbal actions, and mental actions. So in other words, in Pali, bodily karma, verbal karma, and mental karma. He asked the Buddha, what is the most powerful one among these three? And Buddha answered, most powerful one is the mental. This one is the most powerful one. You see the difference? So, totally different teachings. And then he went back to his teacher, his master. There was a group of people sitting in front of him, in front of Nigantanatha Buddha, learning teachings from him. In the midst of that assembly, Digatapassi sat down and explained everything about his conversation with the Buddha. And then there was a layperson, lay disciple of Nigantanatha Buddha, and his name is Upāli, and he praised how the Nigantanatha Buddha's disciple Digatapassi answered, and then he also wanted to go and debate with the Buddha. Okay, but Digatapassi didn't like that. Digatapassi said, no, don't allow him to go to the recluse Gautama, because he said recluse Gautama knows tricks, so he can convert others followers to his own views. Don't send him. But Nigantanatha Buddha said, no, don't be afraid. You should go. You will be famous. People will tell that you even debated with the Buddha. You will be very famous. You go. Okay, and make him your disciple. That's what he said. See here, Nigantanatha Buddha says, the Digatapassi says, sir, I don't believe it is a good idea for the householder Upāli to rebuke the ascetic Gautama's doctrine. For the ascetic Gautama is a magician. He knows a conversion magic and uses it to convert the disciples of other religions. That's how they spread misinformation about the Buddha. They didn't see the actual reason why these people who used to believe other faiths and other doctrines become very interested in Buddha's teachings. What is the reason? They didn't know. They thought these more and more people are interested in Buddhism and they like the Buddha's teachings is because the Buddha knows magics. He uses tricks to convert others. Because they couldn't believe that they are very devout disciples. They left their religion, their doctrine, their views, and become disciples of the Buddha. They couldn't believe how they do this. They didn't know that they were attracted to the truth. They didn't know that. They didn't know that all these people were inspired by the truth. taught by the Buddha. So then Nigandranath Buddha replied, "It is impossible, Tapasi. It cannot happen that Upāli could become a recluse Gautama's disciple, but it is possible that recluse Gautama could become Upāli's disciple. Go, householder, refute the ascetic Gautama's doctrine on this point. For either I should do so, or Diga Tapasi, or you." And then the householder Upāli went to see the Buddha for the first time in his life. First time in his life. Now he's going to converse with the Buddha about a very deep Dhamma.
Yes, sir, replied the householder Upāli to the Jain Natika. He got up from his seat, bowed and respectfully circled him, keeping him on his right. Then he went to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to him, "Sir, did the Jain ascetic Diga Tapasi come here?" "He did, householder." "But did you have some discussion with him?" "I did." "And what kind of discussion did you have with him?" Then the Buddha informed Upāli of all they had discussed. When he said this, the householder Upāli said to him, "Good sir, well done by Tapasi. The honorable Tapasi has answered the ascetic Gautama like a learned disciple who rightly understand their teacher's instructions. For how impressive is the measly mental rod when compared with the substantial physical rod. Rather, the physical rod is the most blameworthy for performing bad deeds, not so much the verbal rod or the mental rod. Householders, so long as you debate on the basis of truth, we can have some discussion about this." "I will debate on the basis of truth, sir. Let us have some discussion about this." "What do you think, householder? Take a Jain ascetic who is sick, suffering, gravely ill. They reject cold water and use only hot water. Not getting cold water, they might die. Now, where does the Jain Natika say they would be reborn?" "Sir, there are gods called mind-bound. They would be reborn there. Why is that? Because they died with mental attachment. Think about it, householder. You should think before you answer. What you said before and what you said after don't match up. But you said that you would debate on the basis of truth."
Now, the disciple Upāli praised Digatapasi, saying, "Oh, he's very wise. His answer was correct." That's what he said. He said, "This meaningless mental action is not that important. The main thing is bodily rod," he said, Upāli. And then Buddha told him, "Okay, so let's discuss about this, but you have to stand on the basis of truth." Right? And he agreed. And then Buddha asked the first question. So in their religion, in the Niganthas religion, they don't drink cold water. It was kind of a seal, a precept they followed. Right? So they only used hot water. Like we do fasting, right? So it was their practice, part of their practice. They only used hot water. So what happened was, one Jain ascetic, a disciple, got sick. He needed cold water, but their precept prevented him using cold water. So he only used hot water. But his mind was longing for cold water because he didn't like to die. And Buddha asked, so this disciple dies because he didn't get cold water. And Now, after his death, according to Nigantanatha's teaching, where would he be reborn? And the answer was, he will reborn in a world called Mano-satta, mind-bound. And Buddha asked why? It's because that follower died with mental attachment for cold water. So in this case, what decided the place of rebirth? Mental action. Mental action decided where this person is going to be reborn. And now Buddha said, okay, wait a minute. Now, before you said mental action is not that important. You said bodily road. Oh, bodily action is the most powerful one, and it can decide where you are going to reborn, what is going to happen to you. Everything depends on the major bodily action. Mental action is not so important. But in this case, you all agree that this person's rebirth was decided by a mental action. And then Buddha said, what you said before and what you said after don't match. So now Buddha proved with the very first story that your teaching is wrong. Your master's teaching is wrong. Mental action is the most powerful one. But he didn't accept that, so he kept debating.
Even though the Buddha says this, still the physical rod is the most blameworthy for performing bad deeds, not so much the verbal rod or the mental rod. What do you think, householder? Take a Jain ascetic who is restrained in the fourfold restraint, obstructed by all water, devoted to all water, shaking off all water, pervaded by all water. When going out and coming back, they accidentally injure many little creatures. Now what result does the Jain Natika say they would incur? Sir, the Jain Natika says that unintentional acts are not very blameworthy. But if they are intentional, then they are very blameworthy. But where does the Jain Natika say that intention is classified? In the mental rod, sir. Think about it, householder. You should think before answering. What you said before and what you said after don't match up. But you said that you would debate on the basis of truth.
Sadhu, sadhu. Think about the wisdom of the Buddha, right? So wise. Like, people don't know like what they are asking. So what is the story here? When a follower of Nigantanatha Putta was pacing up and down, realizes that many little creatures have been killed. He was stepping on them and he realizes there are dead ants and little creatures. And then when that happens, how does the Nigantanatha Putta describe that action? Is it a powerful unwholesome thing? It's a powerful bad karma thing? And he said, no. Why? Because it was the follower didn't have any intention to kill. Right? So it was unintentional. And then Buddha asked, what if there was an intention? then it is very unwholesome, very powerful, very bad, evil. And then Buddha asked, where is the intention classified or categorized in the Nigananathaputa's teaching? Intention, chetana, volition is categorized in the mental rod, manodanda. And now, again, according to this story, what is more powerful? Mental karma, mano karma. Now, because of the Buddha's teachings, now we know that very clearly, right? If we don't have intention and somebody dies, we didn't have the intention of killing, we don't make bad karma. That is how vegetarian thing is very clearly solved. People would bring meat or fish to monks. Are monks responsible? Monks even don't know what they are going to bring for today's lunch. So are monks responsible? We didn't ask anybody to kill anybody. Monks were practicing loving kindness meditation for all beings, even the time they were cooking. Because monks didn't have any intention to kill. So karma is generated always based on an intention. It should be a volitional act. So then still Upāli, the household Upāli said, still the bodily rod is powerful, not mental rod is not that powerful. And then the third story, Buddha explains.
Second householder. Is this Nalanda successful and prosperous and full of people? Indeed it is, sir. What do you think, householder? Suppose a man were to come along with a drawn sword and say, in one moment I will reduce all the living creatures within the bounds of Nalanda, one heap and mass of flesh. What do you think, householder? Would you do that? Sir, even 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 men wouldn't do that. How impressive is one measly man? What do you think, householder? Suppose an ascetic or Brahmin, psychic power, with the mastery of the mind, try to come along and say, I will reduce Nalanda to ashes with a single malevolent act of will. What do you think, householder? Would you do that? Sir, an ascetic or Brahmin with psychic power who has achieved mastery of the mind could reduce 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 Nalandas to ashes with one single malevolent act of will. How impressive is one BC Nalanda? Think about it, householder. You should thank him for answering. What he said before and what he said after don't match up. But you said that you would debate on the basis of truth.
Okay. Good. In the third story, Buddha explains about the city of Nalanda, right? And Buddha asks, is it possible for one person to kill all the humans in the city of Nalanda? Answer is, no, it is impossible. Even a group of people cannot do that because there are so many people. But Buddha asks, somebody who has developed psychic powers, the meditation powers, with a single act of will, using their mental power, can't they destroy the entire city? And he agrees, yes, he can do that, because that some people use their mental power to do that, and you will realize it. More stories are coming. So then what is the most powerful one? Mental action, manokamma, becomes more powerful. And he still says, no, I think it's the bodily action is more powerful. And then the last story, the Buddha asks here, what do you think, householder? Have you heard how the wilderness of Dandaka, the forest wilderness, okay, the forest Dandaka, Kalinga, Medja, and Matanga came to be that way? Like, you know how they became forests? Because they were before populated cities. And he says, I know. How do you know? Have you heard? I have that it was because of a malevolent act of will by hermits, the meditate, like ascetics, people who develop the mind, that the wilderness of Dandaka, Kalinga, Meja, and Matanga, these forests came to be that way. They became like empty of people, abandoned. Why? It's because of a mental power. A hermit used their mental power, the psychic power, and the entire city became empty. And it became a forest now, abandoned. And Buddha asked, think about how you answer. You said the bodily action is the most powerful one. And now you already have agreed that the mental power, the mental action is more powerful. Now he reveals, Bhante, I was already delighted. Now Upāli, the follower of Nigantanatha Buddha says, I was already delighted and satisfied by the Buddha's very first simile. He says, I realized the truth with the very first simile. Nevertheless, I wanted to hear the Buddha's various solutions to the problem, so I thought I would oppose you in this way. With the first story, he realized, wow, Buddha is so wise. The mental action is definitely the most powerful one. The Nigantanatha Buddha's teaching is wrong. Excellent, Bhante, excellent. As if he were writing the overturned, or revealing the hidden, or pointing out the path to the lost, or lighting a lamp in the dark so people with good eyes can see what is there. The Buddha has made the teaching clear in many ways. I go for refuge to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. Was it due to a magic, or was it due to the wisdom? Wisdom, right? The knowledge, the truth. People are so impressed. And they couldn't hold on to their wrong old ways anymore. They were naturally dropped in front of the truth. Buddha only shared the truth. Buddha didn't ask him to become a disciple of the Buddha. And Buddha says here, householder, you should act after careful consideration. That means before you becoming my disciple, you should think twice. You should think more. Now I am even more delighted and satisfied with the Buddha, he says, since the Buddha tells me to act after careful consideration before going for refuge to the Buddha. For if the followers of other religions were to gain me as their disciple, they would carry a banner all over the Nalanda city saying, the householder Upāli has become our disciple, because he was a very rich, famous person in the city, very wealthy. And yet the Buddha says, householder, you should act after careful consideration. You should think before you become, go for refuge to the triple gem. For the second time, I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And then Buddha says, for a long time, householder, your family has been wellspring of support for the Jain ascetics. You should consider giving to them when they come. Buddha said, for many, many years, you have been offering dana, food, to those Nigantanatha Buddhas. Please don't stop that. You should continue giving dana to them. And he says, now I am even more delighted and satisfied with the Buddha, since Buddha tells me to consider giving to Jain ascetics when they come. I have heard, Bhante, that the ascetic Gautama says this. People say, the Nigantanatha Buddha says, misinterprets, right? Gifts should be given to me, not to others. They say, this is what Buddha says to his people. Gifts should be only be given to me, not to others. Gifts should only be given to my disciples, not to the disciples of others. Only what is given to me is very fruitful, and to my disciples. Yet the Buddha encourages me to give to the Jain ascetics. So for the third time, he went for refuge to the Buddha. And you know what happened? The Buddha taught the householder Upāli step by step with a talk on giving, dana, ethical conduct, sila, and heaven, sagga. He explained the drawbacks of sensual pleasures, kamanang adinavam, or sordid and corrupt, about the defilements of the life, and the benefits of renunciation, benefit of attaining stages of enlightenment. And when the Buddha knew that Upāli's mind was ready, pliable, rid of hindrances, elated and confident, the Buddha explained the special teaching of the Buddhas, Dukkhang, Samudayang, Nirodhang, Maggang. What is that? Buddha taught the first noble truths when Buddha noticed that the Upāli's, the disciple Upāli's mind was ready, very calm, inspired, ready to grasp the deep teachings. Buddha taught the suffering, its origin, its the end of suffering, the path, about the Noble Eightfold Path. Just as a clean cloth rid of stains would properly absorb dye, in that very seat, the stainless, immaculate vision of Dhamma arose in Upāli. Everything that has been has a beginning, has an end. Yankinchi samudaya dhammang sabbang tang nirodha dhamma. About the cause and effect mechanism, he realized everything is conditioned. Things arise dependent on causes. The effects last as long as causes last. So nothing is permanent, nothing lasts forever. Everything has a limited time. Everywhere, in any world, in any universe, any realm, everything is temporary. That's the knowledge of a Sotapanna. So Upāli he saw the Dhamma, he attained the Dhamma, he understood the Dhamma, he fathomed the Dhamma, he went beyond doubt, got rid of indecision, and became self-assured and independent of others regarding the teacher's instructions. He became a Sotapanna disciple. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So he attained the first stage of enlightenment just by conversing for the first time in his life with an enlightened one. It was the very first conversation, very first day, and that conversation was enough for him to realize the Four Noble Truths. Just sitting there, he came there as somebody else's disciple with so many wrong views in his mind, and he stood up as a Sotapanna who attained the first stage of enlightenment. Isn't that beautiful? So fortunate. So fortunate. Because it's so much wisdom. Buddha teaches the wise people are like the tongue that knows the taste of a curry instantly. Unwise people are like the spoon, always in the curry, doesn't taste the flavor of the curry. He's like the tongue that knows the flavor of the curry instantly. That's the secret of attaining the Sotapanna stage.